Howdy folks, thanks for checking in to Mr. Ulrich's LandofBiology.com. I am Mr. Ulrich. In this video podcast we're going to be taking a look at all of the things that make us alive. Now if we're going to be studying biology, we should probably define biology. So let's take the word apart. Of course you know that bio means life. You probably think that logy means the study of, actually means or refers to speech or reason, but that's close enough to study for our purposes. So you put it together and you get biology is the study of life, la-di-da. Not the first time you've done this. We're going to do this a lot with other words in biology and in this course. It's really, really helpful if you can take words apart and know the parts of the words and know what those mean. It allows you to really figure out a lot of terms in science and heck, other places as well. Well, if biology is the study of life, then what's the meaning of life? This is often posed as one of those unanswerable philosophical questions, but to us biologists, it's not that hard to answer. The meaning of life, or the goal of living, is for my genes to live on. And since this husk of a body is not going to live forever, the only way that that's going to happen is if I can somehow get my genes to live on in another organism. So I guess the meaning of life to a biologist is genetic immortality. Well, if we're going to be studying biology and studying life, well, we should be able to characterize what it means to be living. Well, when we take a look at all living things, there's a list of processes that all living things carry out. And in order to be characterized as alive, you have to carry out all of these life processes, with the weird exception of one, but we'll get to that at the end. Look at the little tree. Give it some time and some water and some sunlight, it's going to grow up to be a great big tree. Yes, all living things get bigger. This is the life process of growth. Lunch. Now, biologically, what all these diners are doing is actually simply gathering useful material from the environment. We'll talk later about the differences between heterotrophic and autotrophic nutrition, but nutrition certainly is a life process. Oddly enough, digestion, what most people associate with nutrition, is not really a life process because all living things do not digest. Now, these next two life processes of synthesis and assimilation are separate life processes. For whatever reason, the textbook that we use puts them together in one group, and so to kind of align with the textbook, I've put them together in the same group as well. Now, synthesis should sound a little bit like synthetic. The roots are the same. Synthetic fibers are man-made fibers, and the key to synthesis is the made part. Synthesis is making compounds, and assimilation is when you take those compounds and add them to yourself, use them as raw materials to make more organism. This is what we would call, we kind of both put these together and call them the you are what you eat. I put the sorta on there because like this gentleman is enjoying a delicious fried Twinkie. He's going to use the molecules of that fried Twinkie to make more molecules of himself. Now, that doesn't mean that if he only ate fried Twinkies, he would turn into a fried Twinkie. He would just be limited to just the compounds that make up a fried Twinkie to make up more of himself. And, well, you need more than Twinkie molecules to make up your own body. So the synthesis part is the making the molecules, and the assimilation is when you use those molecules to make more of yourself. Fire. No, fire is not one of the life processes, not directly anyway. But what is fire? Fire is really the release of chemical energy from the breakdown, the oxidation of fuel molecules, whether they're wood molecules or gasoline molecules. And the living things, like I said, aren't on fire necessarily. They do something very similar. We do release chemical energy by breaking down larger molecules. In the case of living things, it's usually glucose. And this process that's like fire is called cellular respiration. Now, be careful. The tendency or the risk here is that people are going to see that word respiration and they're going to immediately think of breathing. All right. Now, breathing is something that, we do with lungs and allows you to sigh and sing and all those kinds of things. And all living things don't necessarily breathe. All right. Though the breathing, the gas exchange that takes place during breathing is certainly involved in cellular respiration. It provides the oxygen that aerobes need to go through the chemical reaction that gets the energy out, and it gets rid of the byproduct, the waste product, the carbon dioxide, from the chemical reaction. The key here is cellular respiration. We need to associate that with energy. Cellular respiration, energy release. This is the chemical reaction of the overall chemical reaction of cellular respiration. It involves the glucose there, the C6H12O6, combining with oxygen to break apart into carbon dioxide and water. Now, this is one of countless chemical reactions that makes up life, and all of these chemical reactions of life are referred to as metabolism. So living things go through chemical reactions, a lot of chemical reactions. So metabolism is a nice kind of umbrella policy. It covers all of the chemical reactions, the building up, the breaking down, and the changing of compounds within organisms. So living things all take in useful materials. They go through chemical reactions with those materials to change them into other compounds, to build themselves, and to use as fuel. And of course, in all of those chemical reactions, there's going to be metabolic waste that have to be gotten rid of. Now, you've probably heard of cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Not all living things think, so it's probably more appropriate to say excreto ergo sum. Anyway, there's more to excretion than just going number one or number two. Heck, we have to get rid of those waste products from cellular respiration, carbon dioxide and water, and we get rid of those through good old exhaling. Regulation is another life process that all living things go through. This is when organisms are able to detect changes in the environment and then respond to those changes in such a way to maintain stability on the inside. Homeostasis is that stable internal environment. Here this person has obviously detected that his environment was quite a bit warmer than he really wanted, and in order for his body to stay the same internal temperature, he released a whole bunch of sweat, and the sweat evaporated and cooled him down. This is an example of how an organism maintains homeostasis. Transport is another life process. A lot of people get transport confused with locomotion. They're not the same thing. We're not necessarily talking about an organism transporting itself. What all organisms do is move materials within that organism. This is something that our circulatory system does for us. Blood will move nutrients and waste products and other compounds around our body so that they can be excreted, but it's not just humans and animals that do this. Certainly trees have transport mechanisms within them. Indeed, all living organisms have transport mechanisms within them. Last but not least on our list of life processes is reproduction. Now, as a high school teacher, most of my students have not reproduced, but they are certainly alive. Reproduction, which is making more individuals, is kind of special in that not each individual has to go through it, but some organisms in that species have to go through reproduction. Otherwise, the species goes the way of the Shakers. The Shakers were a religious sect that did not believe in copulation, in reproduction at all. And suffice it to say, of course, there are no more Shakers left anymore. So reproduction is that kind of the exception, in that not all individuals have to reproduce in order to be considered alive. Well, that about wraps it up for the life processes. Thanks for checking in. Of course, if you have any comments or concerns or any other feedback, feel free to drop me an email, or you can go to MrUlrichsLandofBiology.com in order to get any of the supporting material that goes along with this and any of the other podcasts. Thanks again, and we'll see you in class.